Well, howdy, howdy, howdy. My name is young-reaves. I am an information technology, information systems double major from Charleston, South Carolina. I will be graduating in December and beginning a role or a life as a software engineer at Assurian down in Nashville. So today I'll be showing y'all an application that basically helps you create a budget and track your expenses and income via a web application. Mainly, we'll be using just JavaScript, HTML, and a bit of CSS to show y'all this app. It's not complicated at all. It took some time though to make sure I had all the pieces together, but since I did finish kind of a little bit early, I went back through and tried to document as best as I could, and make it a little more readable. Did a lot of formatting. Looked into clean code as far as naming conventions. I'm trying to really like just make it as easy as possible to read, so that when I do get into start working with production level code, it'll be easily manageable and dispersed. So, without further ado, let me just take y'all into the code and show y'all around. So, of course, I called it YNS Finance. Oh, and I have not updated my README yet, but I will when I upload this video. But I called it YNS Finance, which is basically Young and Successful Finance. One thing I realized is that it's been a little bit difficult tracking my money since I started this business, and I've been doing it in Excel, but that hasn't. It's not really as user friendly, not user friendly, but readable as this application. And I got this idea from one of the project ideas that was presented or provided to us at the beginning of the semester. So I was like, okay, instead of me trying to do some overly complicated project that, I'd have to go back and update, I'm gonna do something that I can try to use now. So yeah, just this is my CSS. And as I was showing y'all, the naming conventions are very clear cut. All the way down to just, budget title, budget value, budget income, budget expenses. Try to make it as easy as possible to read. I researched a few CSS style sheets to help me out. I'm not really good. I'm not very artistic. I don't have the patience, low key, for CSS. So I outsourced a lot of these colors and just keep it simple. And as you can see, basic colors. My background is, of course, my logo and whatnot. So yeah, very simple. But let's go into my index. Oops. So as you can see, of course, we open up the HTML tag, letting it know that's the HTML document. And at the bottom, of course, call my script. But here is where I'm using an external website to get my fonts. And here's, of course, my icons that I'm using. Learned this from W3 Schools. I've been using that a lot. But of course, this is where I get my icons and stuff like that. And what else? Yeah. So, of course, I call it Young Successful Finance. I have my HTML up here. As you can see, this top budget made all my class names very readable and very easily comprehensible. You don't have to guess what I'm going for. Here's my month without change. Nothing too fancy here. This is actually Very straightforward, very simple. Here, got all my classes and stuff like that. Have to have these so that when my list pops up, it'll be able to still, my CSS will attach to this class right here where my list will be located. Let me make sure I got. Yeah, and yeah, let me show y'all a little bit of oh, this is the logo I'm using. This is my company and stuff like that. But let me show you some code. It's a lot. I know. So of course I have 3 different controllers. I have a budget controller, I have a UI controller, and I have my main controller. For my budget, right here, I am basically assigning these IDs descriptions on the HTML to these variables right here so I can use them later. Come down here, this is where I'll be able to calculate my percentages with the total outcome as a parameter. And here's my income right here, where I can grab these values and assign them. I calculate total, basically with all the items in my array. It'll parse through that and add them up and return that or assign that to my sum. Here's my items, my all items array for my expenses and my income. And of course, just data is what I will be returning back. As you can see, and my totals, and my budget, and my percentage. So I have my add item function, basically where I'll take the type, the description, and the value, and allow that to, where I put that into my array, my data array, or my all items array in my data variable, and assign it an ID so that I'll be able to parse through that later. Here I will be able to create a new item based on income or based off the type. Here, of course, the type is expense. It'll go into expense. If it's income, it'll go into income. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And this is where I'll push that item into my data structure, which is my array, and return that element. Coming down here, this is where I can delete an element out of my array. As I go through, I'm using a map or a hash map where I will return that current ID. And then from that current ID, if it is not equal to -1, then it will splice those indexes. Here's where I calculate my budget. Basically, I'm calling in this function right here for expense or income. I'm grabbing the budget and assigning or minusing the income versus expensive and assigning to them a budget. And then, of course, if it's greater than 0, do my percentage using the math round.round function that is provided automatically. Easy math, of course, the expense divided by the income times 100 equals the percentage. Here's where I calculate my percentage, where I'll get that expense for each expense in that array, and then calculate the percentage right here and put that as my total. And then this is the function I'll use to get my function or get my percentages and assign it to this variable right here and return all my percentages. Coming down here, of course, this is where I would return all of my values. And that is my budget controller, basically with all my numbers. My UI is where I am assigning. So DOM is basically snap. Snap. I forgot the actual name for DOM. Let me look. Bear with me. Don't want to say it incorrectly. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I was right. Data object model. I'll go back. So This allows me to interact with my HTML interface. So as you can see here, these are my class names. And now I can assign those to actual values that I can be able to then mess with or interact with later down the road. And just to show y'all what I'm talking about, just look, add type. Add type is right. Where is it at? Haha. Add type is right here. So these are my class names, which I'll then be able to assign to variables so I can manipulate them later. Here I'm just formatting my numbers so that it will have my commas if a user inputs it like this. Actually, here's some of my notes and a little bit of math right here. This is where I had to look this up actually, so that's not fully me. And here, of course, I will return an input where I'll do type, which will be query selector, or I'll have to call the query selector to be able to change that value to what I want. And that goes for the description and value as well. Here's where I add that list item. Of course, if it is income, I'll be then manipulating the income container and adding this element as far as, and the same goes for the expenses. And here's where I can create an HTML string for the placeholder for that current value. Here's of course where I replace the placeholder text with some actual value. My new HTML will be the ID and the description value of what I currently have, or the current value that the user inputs. Here's where I put that on the screen. Here's where I can delete a list item from the screen. And here's where I clear all my fields. And I display the budget onto my screen. And all this is simple as far as displaying the budget and the percentages. You'll see that later. Simple display month, basically, of course. I get a new date and then and I make a month array where I'll assign the month to that get down. Not the get now, but this function grabs, a local month or a month in local time and assigns it to this variable. Same goes for years, same goes for actual day. Or that's my day, yeah. And add that to the screen. Change type is where I can change from an expense to an income. So as you can see, it'll change it to red if it is an expense. And if it's income, it'll be green. I'll return that all to the screen. My global app controller is where I'll use my budget controller and my UI controller to basically set up a few listeners so that when the user does click on, add item, that my application will be able to listen to that and work accordingly. As you can see here, click and on click delete item change, of course. Here's where I call my update budget. My budget controller, update budget, cool, add that to my budget and then display that. And then my percentages, same thing goes for that. Here, I'll be able to add items to my screen, of course, and delete items to my screen. Delete, and you can read through these. I added notes for that, of course, get, my field input, and then add the item to the budget controller, add the item to my UI, clear the field, and calculate the update budget and calculate the update percentages. Same thing goes for delete item as well. And here's where I just basically call everything, where I send it back out. And you can see in console.log, if everything's working, it'll say application has started. And here's where I initialize it. Just to show you that everything works, let's just go here. We'll be doing income. Income would be payday. Let's just do payday. And let's say we've got $200. Boom. Added that to our income. As you can see, this is our budget right now. So let's say we also sold a car, and we'll add that. 1500, and boom, now budget is 1700. But so does